So muddy. Whoa. I hear lots of birds in it.
Among the ruins that are now the 101 Ranch, this leaning stone tower is the most unique. It stands alone a few miles from the White House, built by the Miller brothers as a monument to Chief White Eagle, leader of the Ponca tribe and longtime friend of the 101. On top of the tower stands a white eagle. On the day when Chief White Eagle's monument was dedicated, there was a colorful celebration at Boot Hill. The photographer recorded a rare day in Oklahoma history when he made these films. For many of these Poncas have, like the 101 Ranch, gone from Oklahoma forever. George Miller Sr. had befriended the Ponca tribe when its friends were very few. He helped them obtain their Salt Fork land after the whites forced them out of Nebraska, and the Miller brothers continued their father's kindnesses. When distinguished visitors wished to see a genuine red man, a village would arise on the White House lawn. And when some action was desired, the young men would strip to the waist, take up their sticks, and flail away in a game of Indian stickball. Certainly the roughest, wildest, most dangerous game since the gladiators. The Millers were grateful. By their word, no Indian ever went hungry or cold or sick, if the Millers knew it. The slow death of the great 101 Ranch began with the death of Colonel Joe in 1927. They found him in the ranch garage, a victim of carbon monoxide. In his will was a $1,000 gift to the Ponca Indians to provide for the traditional memorial service. More than 1,000 Indians gathered for the rites, where the personal belongings of the deceased were distributed among his friends according to Indian custom. 2 years later, in the winter of 1929, George Miller was killed in an automobile accident while returning to the ranch. The last services for George Miller also drew a large crowd to the ranch. People had come by the thousands to watch the roundups, to thrill to the apple blossoms and to the circus. Thousands more had laughed at the improbable Terrapin Derby. But this was an audience for sorrow, one emotion that had always been foreign to the 101. A long line followed the casket into Ponca City. It was a bleak day for the great ranch, bleaker than the patches of winter snow which spotted the frozen ground. Two were gone now, Joe, the genial host and horticulturist, and George, the financial wizard, indispensable money manager who had always been able to pay off the big loans and get more to take their place. The two brothers who wrote such an amazing chapter in the history of their state were buried in a family plot in the Ponca City Cemetery. Zach Miller tried to carry on, but it was too late. He was hit by the Depression, crops failed, thousands of dollars in mortgages came due. Zach tried to save the ranch with the show, but he was hounded by bad weather, poor attendance, accidents, and hungry lawyers. The Miller Brothers' Real Wild West and Great Far East show lost $2,500 a day and finally went broke in Washington, D.C. There came a day when Zach, alone in the White House, tried to stand off his creditors with a gun. But it was no use. A judge ordered him jailed. Governor Murray dispatched the National Guard and set him free, but troops could not save the ranch. It took 4 auctioneers working all one dusty day to dismember the last of the 101. Everything went, even the buffalo. Through it all, Zach stayed in the White House, hidden from the curious crowds. And then, 2 hours before a sundown deadline, the last of the Miller brothers left the ranch. Through the 30s, the White House gradually rotted away. Finally, during World War II, it was demolished and the materials sold. Only the foundation and concrete vault survived the wrecking hammers. Zach Miller lived on, a broken, unhappy man until he died in 1949. He asked to be buried on a hill beside the Salt Fork, looking north over the heart of the 101 Ranch. And that's where he is today.